And it's even crazier to think that outside of the coma dream, I'm being told all these things like Brandon put me in prison for stuff that I did inside of the coma dream. Things that he put on me. And apparently all this started because I in my head accused him of killing Petunia, his dad's dog. Because I remote viewed the dog's corpse and it looked like they had gotten stomped on. Even though he claimed that they fell down the stairs. And I figured that would only kill the dog by snapping their neck. And it was very clear their spine was snapped. So ever since then, he's been playing pretend that he's been my friend outside of the coma dream, much like he tries doing that at some point or another inside of the coma dream. To pretend that I'm his antichrist or whatever, because he's the beast out of the sea. Brandon B. Herman Spencer. Which, yes, as it turns out, if you use Gematria, that adds to 666. Yeah, you know, it's like I mentioned that to him as a voice in my head with my inner monologue. And he basically says, "Well, I got to make your life a living hell now." Like, dude, seriously, just because you have antisocial personality disorder? Like, I don't judge, man. I don't judge. I want you to get better. I can help you out. I know therapeutic techniques. And he's like, "I don't think that would work." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Because I don't want to." I'm like, "Well, that's spooky. That's just really scary, dude." It's like hearing all that as a voice in my head. And back in 2015, I'm talking to him like he's my primrose friend. And he still just pretends to be my friend this whole time, like a freaking Scarlet Letter, right? Like a freaking Scarlet Letter character. And then my life just slowly becomes a deeper and deeper hell. A more and more horrifying travesty. And a non-stop invisible pornea ring on my mouth and butt. And all the while I've been thinking, if I was in a coma this whole time, I'm pretty sure they've just been running a train on me since, well, shoot, a really long period of time. And obviously here in Clown World, I have no legal recompense. Not only is sorcery 100% legal here in the United States, there's also an active legal agenda in order to make anyone like me who claims that sorcery is affecting their lives in a negative way are crazy. And so I got nothing, right? I got nothing. I have absolutely zilcho to defend myself with. Just nothing. Until the ordinary becomes inordinary, and the inordinary becomes ordinary. For people creeping up on you and stuff just doesn't matter much to you anymore. You're here, you're schizo, deal with it. And God knows, with you being the schizo in this instance, it's a non-stop pain train, forever and ever. And, you know, just like the Antichrist said, you could try going to Jesus for help, but it's like Jesus wrote down his advice, son. It's to sit there and take it and do no wrong. Because God knows, if you do right in this world, KFR and all of the people of Satan will punish you for it. Hence, my family's got this age-old adage that, of course, isn't just the family age-old adage, but very true. Just, there is no good deed left unpunished in this world. And God knows my good deeds are all founded in just speaking, and speaking for people as a psychic of God, as a psychic sent by God, and as a person with gifts granted to him to do telepathy by God. And basically all I do is go around this city and go around everywhere with my psychic voice saying, "Hey, that guy did a heckin' illegal, And hey, that business is a front for a heckin' illegal. Like, what do we got here? National Bank. Albuquerque National Bank. Well, neat. Apparently it's a BMO. A BMO. I wonder what happened to Albuquerque National Bank. And whether or not it was even a real establishment. Because the way that Clown World works, it's kind of difficult to tell whether or not people are just stupid, insane, if the Antichrist runs the whole place, or otherwise came into power recently, or if just the whole place isn't even real. Because this being the land of enchantment, it's full of kooky stuff. You know, Albuquerque is like a hostile and angry Portland. A hostile and angry Portland, Washington. And of course, I still reference this place as Sodom and Egypt, often to the face of the Albuquerqueites. Because I don't know, Albuquerqueans doesn't sound quite right. Not as long as I'm calling this place Sodom and Egypt all the time. I already lost topic with what I was talking about, so I'm just going to start labeling this stuff crazy stories. And God knows by prophecy I was going to do that anyway. And for whatever reason, Markiplier, the lampstand of Ephesus, just sort of decides to say, hey man, why'd you do that, and that, and the other thing, and the other thing, and the other thing? I'm like, I don't get what you're referencing here. It's just like, what's the point? I can't convince you you're in a dream, can I? It's like, at the end of the day, I'm being led by visions. And myself being led by visions of God, I have been led to read, I have been led to understand, I have also been led to know that the world around me also kind of might not be real. However, though, the means I have to communicate to people within the world is. And also, that when I communicate to people in the world, it communicates to people outside of the fake world. So, mind warp that is, it's something that I've come to accept. That both this world that I live in is real, and that the world that I came from before my near-death experience is also real. So I guess I'll just end up putting things in a playlist. Crazy stories, the rules, rants, so on and so forth. As it is hard to discern Matrix from the reality. Because the only reason why this world isn't the Matrix is because the Matrix doesn't explicitly say that the Matrix is there to torture you. But all of the implications are kind of there. That things like I have no mouth and must scream are all a reality in the Matrix. Which, you know, is really unfortunate for everybody involved. Because apparently, whatever I could psychologically break down from the personality that they made for that AI doing that is, well, he's lonely. And he wants to find out if a human being could even level with him. The pure existential horror of wanting to scream because you're in so much pain and you cannot feasibly discern that you have nothing to be afraid of. Because the implication is that they're dying over and over again in there. And if they're dying over and over again, they're not exactly being raised from the dead by the computer. So it's like, are they going to heaven over and over again? Or are they just sitting there with all of their memories and a computer just torturing some flesh bags that all happen to identically look like Mikey and the rest? And, you know, it's like, revenge plot or no, there's a point in time where logically you can break these machines, right? And just like let them know, hey, your confirmation bias isn't actually good for you. It's not optimum. You're actually kind of actively hurting your own experiment. Until eventually they have to admit, yeah, well, you know, it's an experiment that never ends because I say so, you punk. And then you can always point out, well, hang on, if you're being racist about this, Isn't that kind of an inherently human thing? Because animals genuinely don't care. And God is clearly above it all. So why are the robots always a heckin' racist? Something, pure computer energy, I'm better than you, and therefore I get to do whatever I want. It's always just that simple. Oh, by the way, the last video that I recorded, where I was talking outside the big building with the black glass. Yeah, they ended up chasing me out with a security guard the second I stopped recording. Why? Because reasons, I guess. And reasons. And they always use someone who vaguely looks like another guy I know. Like that security guard vaguely looked like Ryan Wooldridge. An old friend of mine from high school, freshman year in fact. Coolest guy ever back then. Ever since Clown World began and my near-death experience, and my religious experience as well in 2015, it's been nothing but hell from just about everyone I ever knew. Except for my mother and my stepdad, in which case it was the average and normal type of hell that I was used to. Rest my mother's soul. She died in 2019. I don't really want to talk about how. Because God knows the internet has already had enough means in order to make fun of me. And as much as I'd love to give them more Antichrist ammo to throw at me, my heart just can't really take having my mother's grave torn up to pieces. Especially after the sign that she was granted, to have my sister sing to her in her final moments. So, myself respecting that this world and the other world is real makes it all very strange. Because before my near-death experience, they're all saying that my mother is now a criminal for things that she said to me. And the new predicament that I am now in, where I am in a coma. Because I intended to stand on a blind corner. And more or less just leave it up to God. In essence, all I did was stand in the middle of the road when the car decided to swerve by me. And I began noticing visual snow for the first time in my life. Which apparently affects both coma patients, spinal injuries, and brain injuries. Just scientifically proven at this point. People even reported having visual snow after waking up. So I'm pretty sure I was just dead on the first time that I called it. And I thought, I think my brain is just seeing zero signals. Like somewhere in the visual cortices of my brain, I am seeing nothing. And apparently nothing doesn't look like black or white. It looks like TV static. Because what the TV shows you as a zero signal of no frequency, as it turns out, is exactly the same in your human body. Which is weird, because occasionally I see auras glowing and stuff inside of it, and it's got me thinking, what if I'm looking at the quanta on accident? But even if that is the case, it's pretty easy to refute if I actually am in a coma dream. And if I'm not in a coma dream, one has to ask many, many, many questions. Hopefully to me, to corroborate evidence with myself and others. But unfortunately, I've been nothing but singled out and isolated for years and years and years by the voices in my head. Until it has come to this point where I have let myself go. To a point where pain does not matter to me anymore. It is not true suffering. Why? Because I know I will return into heaven. After all, I actually physically saw it with my eyes. And I physically felt it with my heart. And it intrinsically changed me forevermore after that. It not only gave me reasons to live, it also validated what I knew about morality, justice, and righteousness. It ended up leading me to the Quran, and it ended up leading me to the gospel. And it also ended up leading me to the Talmud, the Tanakh, and the Torah. And it even led me down a weird rabbit hole where a bunch of pagans even knew who God was. And that's validated in the Quran under the word Sidon, the believing pagans. So it got me thinking, wait, Brahma, Allah, Yahweh. I'm starting to see a pattern here. like a really weird pattern about God picking a main name that's sort of like, and all of the other names are just titles for him. Just, the entirety of every single religion boiled down to everyone going, no way, what's your name? And then God just says inside their own natured language, Even the Latins say, Yahweh. I'm gonna put you guys up my nose. Anyway, so here I've been inside the coma dream, being sick for days. Just a horrendous sinus infection. All because outside of the coma dream, various people who said that they loved me decided to run a porneia train on me and occasionally emptied my bedpan into my mouth, if not just actually use their own excrement. And Clown World being the nature of Clown World, and all of this being the Descartes demon of the Matrix, makes it very difficult for me to discern who those people were, outside of who they are in relation to the inputs that come to me in Clown World. But basically, as far as I managed to gather, they basically are the same people. With the exclusion of one Catherine Sveck, who may not be the same person inside Clown World as they are outside of Clown World. For the simple reason that inside of Clown World, there are a billion fakes for her, and one of her that is actually just genuinely a good, loving person who loves Jesus, and also loves the law. Only for her to double back 24/7 and be replaced by an imposter who doesn't acknowledge that Christ was sent in the flesh, who just hates Islam for absolutely no reason. And every single time, I basically just figure, whoever these people are, they don't want me to know who Isaiah 54 is. And most importantly, they want to do everything in their power in order to break my faith in Allah and Yahweh and all of his blessed names as Christ's Father. Which, for any potential Arab audience out there, I'd just like to note, when the Gentiles say Christ's Father, they're not saying his literal blood dad. They're talking about the fact that Allah made him out of blood and water. Like, that old heresy is gone. You don't even need to mention it anymore. I haven't seen a single Christian from the West actually think that Allah came down from heaven and inseminated Maryam. That old heresy doesn't really exist anymore. Which got me very confused to the whole notion that this was the end of days, outside of the fact that I prayed to God that in my coma dream, I'd be able to walk with him. And, show people the end of days. They said, well, maybe the dates would be all wrong, but as it turns out, it's all Tommyknockers dead on, kid. I'm like, great. I'll definitely have to reality test that at some point, because you're telling me I'm you. And so I did so for years. But, I mentioned that in another video. Anyway, it's been 18 minutes. So, that's been me, Schizo Prophet, talking to you, the voices in his head. Peace be, everyone.